and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Today I'll be continuing with my college football schedule preview and point spread prediction videos with the Michigan Wolverines. So Michigan has one of the toughest schedules in the country in 2026. Tough enough that if Michigan goes 10-2, I would say they're a lock to go to the college football playoff. So their non-conference schedule is pretty much the same as last year because they do get two sure wins against Western Michigan, who was a good group of 5 team last year, but won't be of any challenge to Michigan, and then UTEP, who is always one of the worst group of 5 teams, and they do play Oklahoma again, but having it at home will help Michigan, not only because Michigan is one of those teams that if you're just a little better than they are, if you have to play them at Michigan, they're probably going to beat you. And they also avoid having to go to Oklahoma, who also has one of the toughest environments to play at all of college football. In the conference schedule, they have 7 different opponents than last year. So last year they played Nebraska, Wisconsin, USC, Washington, Purdue, Northwestern, and Maryland. And instead, this year they will play Iowa, Minnesota, Penn State, Indiana, Rutgers, Oregon, and UCLA. And that makes the conference schedule a lot tougher because they play Indiana and Oregon. And switching USC and Washington with Iowa and Penn State, I would say is about even. But the only two conference opponents that are the same as last year are their two rivals, Michigan State and Ohio State. And even though Michigan State's their in-state rival, Ohio State is their biggest rival. And for that reason, uh, Ohio State is their biggest game of the year every year, no matter how good either team is. And this is not the first time that Ryan Day and Kyle Whittingham will be going against each other because several years ago, Ohio State played Utah in the Rose Bowl, and Whittingham nearly pulled the upset with way less talent than Ryan Day had. It was a shootout, 48-45, I believe, was the final score. And Whittingham will have a lot more talent to work with at Michigan than he had at Utah. So I know you may be thinking Michigan should win this game, but Ohio State's defense then was a speck of what it is now. So if you think Michigan's going to go in there and score anywhere close to 45 points, I think you're going to be very disappointed. And if I was a Michigan fan, I wouldn't be thrilled with where the bye week comes, because even though it comes before Penn State, who's on the field performance, I think is going to be a good bit better than last year because Penn State this year is pretty much just going to be 2025 Iowa State and Penn State jerseys. And even though it comes up before a road game, no one is really scared of going to Minnesota. When it comes to tough places to play at in the Big Ten, Minnesota would certainly be in the bottom half. Penn State and Indiana is the toughest 2 game stretch on this schedule, it appears. So that probably would have been the best spot for a bye week, and it's really the only tough two-game stretch on this schedule. I would say with this schedule, 11-1 is the ceiling because I don't think there's any chance of Michigan going 3-0 against Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. And that's not a criticism to them because I don't think anybody could. But I also think there's a good chance that Michigan could go at 9-3, and even as tough as this schedule is, that would almost certainly keep them out of the college football playoff. And as good as this coaching staff is, though, I couldn't really imagine them doing any worse than 9-3. And I know you may be thinking that's no better than last year, and Kyle Whittingham is supposed to be an upgrade from Sharon more, but it has to do with strength of schedule. If Sharon Moore was still coaching at Michigan with this schedule, they would probably go 7-5. Last year, Michigan beat all of the teams they were supposed to beat, but it still didn't get any big wins. And at 9-3, they will have gotten at least one big win, even if it's just against Oklahoma. But Oregon is easily one of the toughest places to play in college football, and uh, they also have what I think on paper is the best roster in college football. But Oregon's only lost at home two times in the 4 years that Dan Lanning has been there. And while their stadium isn't large, it's one of the loudest in the country. To the point to where if I ever went to an Oregon home game, I would probably need earplugs. But it is nice that they get kind of a break in between Oregon and Ohio State against UCLA. And well, I don't think that UCLA is going to be a bad team this year. That's a game that is about as close to a guaranteed win for Michigan as it can be. And the same goes for the games against Rutgers and Michigan State. There is a minus at the beginning of the spread. That means that Michigan is the favorite. If there's a plus at the beginning of the spread, that means that they're the underdog. A 20 plus spread is a blowout, and there's two of those. Western Michigan and UTEP. A 10-19 spread is medium, and there's four of those. Minnesota, Rutgers, Michigan State, and UCLA. 6-9 spread is close, but there'll be a clear favorite, and there's four of those: Iowa, Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State. A 1-5 spread means it's almost a complete toss-up, and there's two of those: Oklahoma and Indiana. So if I had to guess exact spreads for these games that right now, I'd say Michigan would be about a 30-point favorite over Western Michigan and about a 40-point favorite over UTEP and about a 10-point favorite over Minnesota and about a 17-point favorite over Rutgers and about a 15-point favorite over Michigan State and about a 17-point favorite over UCLA. I'd say Michigan would be about a 6-point favorite over Iowa, but only because it's at home. On the road, that would be in the 1-5 range. And I'd say Michigan would be a 6-point favorite over Penn State, but only because that's at home. On the road, that would be in the 1-5 range also. And I'd say Michigan will be a 6-point underdog to Oregon, but only because it's on the road. At home, that would be in the 1-5 range. And Ohio State, I'd say, will be a 6 point favorite over Michigan. But on the at home, that would be in the 1 to 5 range. And I think there's a good chance that anyway, when it comes time for it to be played, that's in the 1 to 5 range. And I'd say Michigan will be a 1 point favorite over Oklahoma, but not because I think Michigan is going to be a better team than Oklahoma, but because it's at home. But on the road, Oklahoma, I'm pretty sure would be at least a field goal favorite because they won that game fairly comfortably last year. And I'd say Indiana would be a 5 point favorite over Michigan, but only because it's at home. On the road, that would be in the 6 to 9 range. So that'll be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.